herbs, but not in the traditional way that you're probably thinking about using herbs. Herbs can be used obviously for cooking, which everybody knows about, but let's talk a little bit about fragrance and how to use the fragrance to your benefit as well. I'm Sarah Smith. I'm a horticulturalist here at Rogers Gardens, and let's get into it. Many people have really great herb gardens in their home, but I find a lot of people don't actually know what to do with them besides general cooking. One of the ones that I think is a little bit more diverse is rosemary. So a lot of people, it's their go-to for Italian cooking, for making breads, but also the fragrance is really amazing to bring into your home. One of the ones that we sell here at Rogers that I really love, there's actually two, is Spice Island and Barbecue. What I really like about these ones is they're very, very tall. They have really large leaves to them. So it makes it really good for harvesting, and they're really good for drying. So if you're going to use these in home for purposes of fragrance, these are two of the best ones that we sell. Typically you can't find these anywhere else, so it's really kind of nice to come in and have something that's very easy to harvest from. Rosemary is really known for boosting moods, for reducing stress and joint inflammation as well. So it's a really great one to diffuse into your home, to have it in scrubs and sprays, and I'll talk a little bit about some different ways you can use it into your house and how to harvest from it. The next one I want to talk about is lemongrass. Lemongrass is really beautiful, does great in pots. It can get quite big, so be prepared for it size-wise. It's not something you can typically find in the grocery store, so it's really nice to have on hand. So if you are ever cooking with it, it's something you could just run out and grab and not have to go store to store to store to look for it, which I have done in the past. So having in a pot is really nice. It's really big and beautiful and has a lot of movement. It has a really great, beautiful, bright, citrusy smell. So it's also a really good one to use for fragrance in your home. It's got that bright, really clean, crisp smell to it, so it's really good for brightening up a room, relieving anxiety, relieving depression, and just generally making the house feel clean and fresh. This is a really beautiful one. Just make sure, again, you're prepared for the size, because you buy it nice and tiny like this. It's just like a baby though. It is gonna grow up and be a full-grown adult. So typically this can get to be about 2 by 2, even 3 by 3 if you put it in the ground. So just don't be surprised when it gets a lot bigger. So this one is my all-time favorite for fragrance. I absolutely love the smell of mint. I love it in my house. I love it even to wear as a perfume. It is absolutely one of my favorite. And we do carry a lot of really great varieties. Mojito mint is a really nice one because it has a nice big leaf. So when I'm looking to harvest, I want my leaves big and fat, so it's really good for drying. But my all-time favorite one that we have here is the Moroccan. The Moroccan mint has the best smell to me, but I find that everybody has a different kind of preference. So when people are coming up and asking me what's the best mint, I tell them, well, my favorite is Moroccan, but stand at the table, sniff everything, smell everything. I'm not gonna look at you funny even if I find you eating it. It's a good way to know which one you like. We have spearmints, we have peppermints, so it does have a different leaf. This one is the spearmint here as well. So they all have different leaves, but this is one that has to be grown in a pot. Mint can be pretty aggressive and take over an area. So I have a nice big mint pot. Sometimes I put 2 different ones in there. It will die down a little bit in the winter time, but it looks beautiful, great for cocktails, but super good for having in the house. It has a really nice, bright, fresh, clean smell to it. It's really good for boosting your memory, boosting your moods, making the whole entire house feel very, very clean and fresh. Good for headaches as well. So this is a great one to have. I love it in scrubs. I love to have it as air fresheners as well. So this is one of my all-time favorite ones to have in the house. So don't just put it in your cocktails. Make sure you bring it in the house for all the beautiful smell that it does provide. So last, but certainly not least, that I'm going to talk about today is lavender. Everybody, I think, understands that lavender is a really great herb to have for smells. Most people actually don't cook with it. I do find it's gotten a little bit more popular, but everybody really plants this for the fragrance of it. There's tons of different kind of lavenders. I think they all smell beautiful. They all have different looks and different great uses in the garden, but the typical ones that people are going to look for the smell is the lavandula intermedias, particularly the grosso, which is this one here. And what it is that the flower is small and easy to dry. That makes it most important if you're going to use it as a dried herb. So look for that Lavandula intermedia, but there's a ton of different varieties. This one's Providence. This one is Phenomenal. I love the flower on the Phenomenal, super pretty, and they all smell great. So again, it's personal preference too. Stand there and smell them. A lot of times people will ask me, what's the best lavender? And I say the same thing. Smell them, decide for yourself, because they all have different kinds of smells. Some are a little more stronger and almost kind of an antiseptic kind of smell to it, which some people really want if they're doing it in their house because they want that clean, fresh smell. Some are very gentle and almost have a little bit of a vanilla kind of vibe to it, which is my personal favorite. So smell all the different ones, decide which one is best for you, because we all have different tastes and preferences. And it's great obviously for sleep. I think most Americans here know that that's something that we absolutely love to have in our lotions and our soaps and stuff for nighttime. But it is also very good for pain relief and stress relief, and it's just a beautiful smell to have in your house. So let's talk a little bit about how you harvest them and how you actually use them to bring in your house for things other than culinary use. So when most people think about using herbs in the house, they're thinking about using them as essential oils. That's a pretty complicated process and would be a whole nother video. It is something you can do at home, but it actually takes 250 pounds of lavender to make just 1 pound of lavender essential oil. So let's talk about drying and using them in different applications. When you're harvesting your herbs, you want to make sure you're doing it when they're not very wet. So it's best to make sure that the foliage is not wet, because that's how they will start to mildew and mold. So when you're cutting them, you want to get nice big long stems. You want to go for something that has big nice foliage. That's why I particularly like different kinds of rosemaries and mints that we sell here at Rogers. And then you want to either tie the bottom of the stems or rubber band them together and hang them in a nice dark cool dry place. It typically takes about 2 to 3 weeks for the herbs to completely dry. You want to make sure that when you're feeling them, they have a little bit of a crunch to them, but they're not falling apart, because that way they're too dry if they completely crumble in your hands. One of the simplest, most effective ways to use dried herbs in your house is to use them for dryer bags. It's really simple, it's really fun, and it smells fantastic. All you have to do is get a nice little mesh bag. It's something that you can simply buy at a craft store or any place like that, and then put the dried herbs in there. When you put your laundry in the dryer, you toss that in there. It's great for lavender, it's great for mints as well. I like actually mixing the two together because it adds this soft, bright smell at the same time. Another great application for your dried herbs is making a room mist. You'll have to use some rubbing alcohol and water, usually a 1-to-1 ratio, and then you can put your herbs in there and let them soak for a little while. Make sure you strain it really well, because you'll put it in a spray bottle and you don't want to clog that up. And then you can simply spray it throughout the room, spray it onto your couches, onto your dog beds. Any herb works really well for this application, and it's a really great natural way to introduce the whole entire smell into your home. The other thing that I love to do during Christmas time specifically is to tuck herbs into my wreaths. Rosemary is a great one for it because it looks really beautiful and pretty, but adding in the dried lavender has a really beautiful look too, and every time you open and close that door, you'll get a little bit of that smell coming in and out of your house, which is a really beautiful application. We have tons of videos on our webpage for how to make your own wreaths, so you can make your own wreath completely by hand or tuck it into a pre-bought wreath as well. One of my favorite ways to use herbs in the house is stovetop potpourri, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's adding herbs into a pot in your kitchen and boiling that to infuse the kitchen with that beautiful smell of whatever herb you're using. Make sure it's something you don't leave unattended. You don't want the water to go all the way down to the bottom. And I like to add a little little bit of lemon with the herbs and maybe a cinnamon stick, depending on the time of year. It's great in the winter, and a little bit of vanilla extract as well. And that's something that you can do simply with any kind of herb in the house, and it adds a really beautiful fragrance. And my other favorite thing to do is sugar scrubs. I absolutely love doing this. I never buy sugar scrubs anymore. Once you know how to make it, it's so super simple. Here's the recipe that you can follow along. I love to use it with lavender, and I love to do it with mint as well. And you use 4 cups of sugar to 1 cup of coconut oil, and then blend your herbs into that. You want to blend that with the coconut oil, add your sugar after the fact. One of the other things that I found that's super great is using cucumbers. So I do grow my own cucumbers, and sometimes you have that stray one that you come to find that's way too big to actually use, and it's really great to add into your sugar scrub. I love to use that one with mint, so I mix the mint and the cucumber together. I make a slurry in my blender, and then I add that to the coconut oil and to the sugar, and it will last really well in the refrigerator for about 3 weeks. So even if you don't grow your own cucumbers, you can use a cucumber from the store. It's a really great gift. It's super refreshing in the summertime. And like I said, I never buy sugar scrubs anymore. Now that I know how to make it myself, it's a great thing to have in the house, and experiment with all the different herbs and smells and combinations that you have in your garden. So now that you know some of the different fun ways you can use herbs in your home and not just for culinary purposes, you can get a little more experimental with what you grow in the garden. If you go to our website, we have a great library with all the different types of herbs and what their different uses are. So that way you can kind of look through that, figure out what you want, and come into the store and see what we have. We have great signage as well that have these great little QR codes. So as soon as you hover your phone over that, you can click right to the description of that herb and all the different uses that it has as well. So you can get more experimental with what you grow and kind of diversify your portfolio with the different herbs that you have in your yard. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, our Instagram page. We have tons of great information there. And if you haven't signed up yet for our email list, you definitely need to do that so you know what we have in store and you don't come in too late and something is sold out, which happens here all the time. Be well, be safe, and happy gardening. Bye.